All right, so we have a 2022 Suzuki King Quad 750. Has 1,400 miles on it. And what I wanted to talk about today is it's having our first issue with it. We've had it 2 years. We have two of them, 1,400 miles, 2 years. We're having our first issue. So what the issue is, as we're driving, as we're riding, it will start to sputter. It will run perfect, it will sputter. It will run perfect, it will sputter. It may run perfect for up to a minute and then start sputtering and just completely lose power and sputtering. Would almost seem like a fuel issue, an air intake issue, something. But the interesting thing about this issue, if any of you have these or know anybody who does as you're trying to diagnose it, is if I put the brights on, so now we put the brights on, we're riding that way, and I turn it all the way to aux. Now I don't know if you need to turn it to aux, but I do. Then, and I just put the brights on, so this is all the way up. The interesting thing is, I rode it for 30 miles and it couldn't get it to screw up at all. It runs flawless. So we know it's not a fuel issue, at least I think. I'm not a mechanic. We don't think it's an air issue. We don't think it's a spark plug issue. So what I'm thinking is it's an electrical issue. And probably at least 50% chance I caused it, 50% chance it's something that goes wrong on the Suzuki. What I think it is, and I wanted to throw this all at you so you can think, if you have anybody else who's doing this and you're trying to diagnose it, I've heard of people taking their machines in, not having them for a month, getting them back, and it's still doing it after spending money on repairs and things like that. There's what I think it is the rectifier regulator. It's either got mud or dirt in some of the connections, because I did get this bogged down in the mud. I did ride it a few hundred miles after, or it's just the part went bad. So I got a new rectifier. It will, remember, run perfect if you put the brights on. So if you're out and you hear of somebody who has a 2019 or later, earlier, till now, Suzuki King Quad, and it's sputtering, and you put the brights on and it's fine, we figure it's probably an electrical issue, and I'm figuring it's probably the rectifier regulator. So today I'm going to start taking it apart and cleaning it and going through it, and then we'll follow up to see if we think that's what's done it. So here I wanted to show you, I got a $30 used Suzuki rectifier regulator. It's called Rectifier on there, off of eBay. I have a new one coming. It's being shipped from Japan, so it's probably going to take about a week to get here. So I'm going to use this $30 one more than likely first, because I want to get out riding probably before the Japanese one will get here. The one from Japan that was an OEM part also was $160. Best deal I could find. So this is, I believe, somewhere up in here. So it's either I got mud all in these connections somewhere between the battery or that, or I lost the ground or something, or this part's just acting up. So I won't be able to tell. I live in a subdivision. The thing is, for a lot of us riders, but for me to really get out and run this again, because it won't screw up for the first couple miles, it won't do the sputter thing. I can't ride it through here. I have to actually go 2 or 3 hours away and just hope. So that's why I got a new one coming. I'll take it. I'll learn a bit about it. I'll take you guys along with me. Just keep in mind, if your vehicle's doing the same thing, sputtering, doesn't seem like the spark plug, doesn't seem like the fuel, flip your brights on. That doesn't do it. Go all the way to the right with your key on the aux. See what happens. It fixed it for me. At least won't ruin your weekend. Now let's get to this. We're going to do a lot of cleaning, get into this rectifier. We wash this thing all up. Here's the used part I showed you earlier. It sits right there. I'm going to just pry this out a bit. It was coated in dirt all up here, just coated in sand and dirt. So we kind of gave it a good wash, and I took the front rack off, wanted to make sure the radiator was clean. So we're looking down here, you can see all the sand and dirt, and now we're letting it dry. Probably going to unhook the battery, it's my guess. We'll unhook the battery, but I'll show you here. So this is the used part that I'm going to use, but I'm going to just kind of pry this up. And you can see it right here. This is it. So literally it's running right at the bottom of this. And as I pry it up, you can see it. So I'm going to take something, and I undid some screws up here, undid the floor, and then I'm going to pop this new one in. But I'm going to let this dry out before I unhook the battery and all that. I just wanted to clean it up real good, because it's definitely a possibility. I'm going to say at this point 50-50 if it is this part that I got dirt or sand or really thick, quicksandy kind of dirt into one of those electrical connections, and that's what's causing the problem. Or I just coated it in so much thick dirt caused the part to go. So we're gonna just swap it out anyway, seeing as how I'm taking it down. Let it dry and get to doing that. There's the Dusty Bean washing hers up. Hers is with 1,400 miles and flawless. So she's pretty impressed by it. This isn't really a review video, more of a fixing that issue, but did just want to mention it's been flawless. Other than really she doesn't like the steering, power steering should help her just a bit more. But yeah, we'll do that in a review video.
My shoulders get a little sore from it, but I love the machine.
Been excellent so far. I used a softball right here just to kind of pop this out. So you can see it right there. Yeah, you can see it real good. You got the two hookups there. We're gonna undo those clips, and then we got these two bolts. That's it. I mean, you can see this is the other one, was right here. The one we're gonna put in is right there, it's identical. Here we have a 10mm socket, which does fit it perfect. So what I'm probably gonna do is just pop those two bolts out on that. I got the softball kind of in there, just enough to push the plastic out, because getting this whole plastic out would really be a pain. So we're gonna pop those two out, then try to undo these clips, because they are really in there. And then I'll hook up the new one, and don't know if I can test it today or not, but let's hope that was the problem. If so, it wasn't too bad. During the ride, when it was kind of sputtering intermittently, I thought, well, maybe I got some mud in the radiator and it's overheating a bit. So I would stop, grab a water bottle, spray it into the radiator, start riding, and I'd be good for a mile or two. So for a bit there, I kept thinking that's what it was, and once I got stopped and sprayed it real good, realized it wasn't it. So I took off the front rack that's on there. There's just a little panel that goes here, which is right here, and I popped that off, and that's what your radiator and your overfill looks like. So now let's pop off that stator, voltage regulator rectifier, I believe it's called, and let's see how easy or hard that is to do. That took maybe a minute. It's a little tight, but really not that bad. So I have it hanging there, gonna undo the clips. That's what it looks like where it just came from. Two bolt holes, quite dirty behind it, so I'm gonna wipe it up, clean it, undo the two electrical clips, and then put the new used one back on. Something I had a hard time finding when I was doing the videos. Here's the one I'm gonna replace it with. See these two little bumps in the middle, okay? So when I just did this, you don't wanna screw that wiring up. There's a piece right here, you push it on the outside, which will then release it from that bump right there. So you push it, this was so full of mud. This one came off, but it was quite full of mud as well. And this one too, so I'm gonna kinda do that with this one. You push in the top and then you just wiggle, 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 but you can get a good look there, push in there, and you can see again, there's these bumps here. All right, so here's the two electrical hookups. I'm using a softball here. Here's where it was connected. This is the one I just took out, and there's a number on the end of it, FH020BA. Pretty dirty, but the inside of it really, and dirt didn't really get inside. So taking a look at that, we got the two clamps here. Here's the new used one we're going to be putting on, which is identical to that one. Has a white line through it, which makes it a little bit easier for me to realize which one is going to be. So we'll take that. It does have different numbering on it, but it does have the same part number. So we're gonna give it a shot, but I'll keep this one with me just in case. This is for the rectifier for the 2022 Suzuki King Quad 750. Top part, rectifier assembly. Okay, got the new part that I'm putting on. When you squeeze these back on, just make sure they click. You'll feel these front pieces lock back down. Now, just gonna put it back like that. Got the softball there still. Put those two 10mm bolts, tighten them up, and really putting the machine back together, and I'm done. So we'll see if this issue was caused by this. Just put it all back together. Gonna take our softball out. Clamps are in, new one, and then hopefully that did the trick. We'll do a quick review. We'll double check and triple check this before we're done with the video just to see if it's still doing that issue at all. It's all back together. Now I'm a little nervous. I put a $30 used part back on for the rectifier for this 2022 Suzuki 750, just in case you're having that problem. But there's one thing I wanted to add in case you're still watching. To all our Canadian friends who are watching, you gotta love the head, eh? The Red Wings. We know you guys love that. All right, we're gonna try to start it, and if it doesn't start, I got a new one coming. So no brights, no nothing, just a normal old start. All right, it's running. We're gonna mess with it a bit before we finish the video out. We'll see if we've been able to get it to do it. So whether we got to take it out on a ride at some point or another. Seems to be running really smooth, warming up a little bit. We'll get it out, ride it a few times. We'll be checked back with you. Just took the rectifier out of this, which is basically something like a voltage regulator is my guess, out of this machine and put it in this machine. We had swapped it with a used one out of another machine and rode about 60 miles and it seemed fine, started sputtering and screwing up again. So we tested all the electrical components we could, they were fine. Took the one out of this machine and put it here and it still did it. Took the one when this was not running right out of this machine and put it into the red one, and then the red one ran perfect. So now we know for a fact it's not that, even though on the internet there are people saying that if you flip the brights on and all this kind of stuff, but if your problem goes away, which it initially did on this one, but now it won't. So we went as far as we could. We changed the spark plugs on it, checked all the electrical connections that we could with a tester, with it running and not, and changed the spark plugs, did that, checked the air filter, all that kind of stuff, and just as far as we can get at the campsite. Here, we put the bad part back in this one, and this one's still running fine. So what obviously wasn't the rectifier part. We're putting it back together, but the Suzuki here had a problem. If we're gonna get home, I think we have a diagnostic tool there. If we don't, it's going to the shop. So we'll keep you posted, but Suzukis do break down. We went to the shop here and the guy says, we never get them. So they sell them here at Fox Power Sports or Peacock. And they said, oh yeah, we don't really get a lot of these. We went back and talked to the mechanics and all that. And he says, man, of all of them, these don't come in. So we're here to tell you the Suzukis do screw up. We'll keep you posted on what it was once it's fixed. So we had two issues with this. After all of that, we went online and we found that if it's sputtering and you put the brights on and it runs fine, it has a very high chance of being electrical. Because we have the same machine, after all this, I put an old part in there. We took my original one where it was sputtering and I put the bright lights on, put it in Tina's, and it's fine. So the whole rectifier thing that we found online, that we went out and bought one, changed it, all of that based on just a thread that we saw was not true. I wanted to add, at least it looks like it wasn't true. I wanted to add, we went into a dealership where they sell Kawasaki, Polaris, and Suzuki we saw, and they let us go in the back and talk to all the mechanics. It seemed to be a pretty busy place. And they said to us, the fewest they see come in for maintenance is the Suzuki. So they didn't just have something in their head that these things do that's quirky, because they just don't see them. They sell a lot of them and they don't really need a whole lot of, other than maintenance, a lot going wrong. So one thing we did do, and it's running better now, and it was sputtering so bad it was just stalling at idle, putting the brights on, all that, nothing was helping. I got a can of carb cleaner, a can of carb cleaner,
Seafoam,
and a can of seafoam. Put a little bit of seafoam in with fresh gas, about 3 gallons, which was nice, and cleaned the carb, revved it up, cleaned the carb, and it's been perfect ever since. And her machine never did it, and I was going on rides on my own using a different gas from a place that probably doesn't sell a lot of gas way up in the UP. So it's possible something was just a little bit off with it. So I want to let you know the Suzuki may not have let us down. After watching this whole video, now you're seeing it may have just been the gas. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Please feel free to like and subscribe.